So, ladies and gentlemen, this is now time for the Fireside Chat right towards the end of our show. And we couldn't have expected a better topic is, will AI steal your jobs? Now, that's a conversation every time there could be a huge perspective about it. And we'd love even this show to have the perspective of our speakers on the same. So we're looking at talking about digital workforce and evolution of the new style enterprise. We're looking at talking about AI and RPA as a catalyst to improve productivity, and also how humans and AI might evolve together in the next decade. With this and much more, it is now time for me to welcome our speaker and moderator. First up, our speaker, Francis Adrian Viernes, the Chief Data Scientist and Analytics Officer, Advanced Tech Lending. With over 8 years of managerial department experience with multinational teams, he's somebody who's right now the Chief Data Scientist and Analytics Officer of one of the fastest growing fintech firms in Southeast Asia. He's also been nominated for the most promising charter holder for CFA Society Philippine 2021. Thank you so much, Francis, for joining us today.
Thank you for the invitation as well, Van.
Thank you. And now joining us on the stage and screen is going to be our moderator, Angela Kim, Head of Analytics and AI Teachers Health. With more than 15 years of experience in the banking and insurance industry, Angela works with multiple organizations to promote diversity and inclusion in technology and ethics, fairness and responsibility in AI. Thank you so much, Angela, for joining us today. Yeah.
Pleasure. Thank you so much. Thank you, Bhavana. And it's such a pleasure to have Francis today. So how are you, Francis?
Oh, I'm kind of okay. Well, it's been raining outside, but now it's all fine. Hope it's the same with you in Singapore, right?
Actually, I'm based in Sydney, Australia.
Oh yes, sorry.
Yes, yeah, it's okay. I mean, we are getting into spring, and yeah, it's a beautiful day actually outside. A beautiful evening actually outside. So welcome, Francis. It's such a pleasure hosting you today. So I know that Baba kindly explained about your background. So Francis is the current Chief Analytics Officer and Chief Data Scientist of Advanced Tech Lending. And Francis, because I can see very interesting your bio from your profile that you've transitioned from different industries during COVID, and I think that really aligns with our talk about working in this disruptive AI-driven environment, and how that's actually impacted for you. So I'd like to hear your view and your experience, what happened during this challenging time, please.
Okay. Well, so it's very nice that you've mentioned that I've transitioned from two different industries, and these are kind of like the polar opposites. So I came from real estate industry where you might consider it as not a very much tech native. So I mean, if you're going to kind of have a let's say a list of the number of industries or the industries that will probably be the first to adopt tech, real estate, as we see, is probably some of those who are slowly adapting. But we're not saying that they're not fit with tech, but they adopt slowly. On the other hand, I transitioned to a fintech company which is more tech native, which tech is kind of like the lifeblood. Now, I know in this challenging times, we see that how AI has, or maybe probably how the pandemic has affected our work. Well, it's kind of much more difficult with it. It's very much in line with our topic. Um, well, with the line of work for real estate, those that are less likely to be called tech native, they find it more difficult to adjust because a lot of their products are based on human interaction. So, for example, you wouldn't want to. It's more secure. It feels safer for a person to talk to a live agent rather than to have, let's say, a robot process your desire for, let's say, leasing a building or buying a house. And in that case, of course, they find it more difficult to adjust on the paradigm of a completely work from home. But on the other hand, with the fintech company, because it's more output based, and well, human interaction is actually very important. Output based can thrive with minimal human interaction. So we see that there is kind of like a great it's even possible for companies in the fintech space to actually thrive. Well, let's give a concrete example. So you know how a lot of programmers will probably be in this zone of creating or innovating or solving problems. Now, it's kind of difficult for them to kind of have that train of thought be interrupted, where, for example, if you have the normal 8 to 5, then you're currently working on a code, you're currently working on a project, and suddenly because it's 5, we have to leave. Then the train of thought kind of gets, well, stopped. But in a work from home setting, that train of thought gets uninterrupted, of course. But of course, it's kind of the same. There's also some disadvantages to it, but maybe if we're trying to like give a weight where these two industries are, or where they stand in the work from home scenario, or how the pandemic has affected them, I'm saying it's more positive as I can see it. And in fact, one proof that you can use is that there is kind of like a myriad of new data science products out there that has been introduced during the pandemic. So that is actually a proof that, well, it thrives. So yeah.
That's very interesting. Thank you so much for sharing your view and also compared how your experience actually transformed during this challenging time. I really liked your the comment about there are so many AI products that actually accelerated innovative creative productivity. And people often says during pandemic actually we've seen almost 10 years worth of acceleration, digital transformation, and remote working really forced everyone to become almost like a platform business and really become really digital literate and also AI literate as well, and which is positive outcome we achieved because it really focused us actually if we have a really imperative goals, then we can achieve this kind of outcome in a very short period of time, right? So it's not surprising that people are concerned about we get AI, we get it's helping people, but how about are they it's AI actually taking away the jobs and professions? And you working in the center of data science, advanced analytics, and AI area, you can see that as you mentioned Francis just before, but you can see, you can witness how all different tools actually assist data scientists and AI professionals to do better work and what that means to the future workforce.
Okay. Well, this is actually a very nice topic, and recently I have myself been thinking about it. Well, just to share an important anecdote that I guess some of us would probably find interesting. Currently, I'm doing a lot of models in well, fintech firm, right? Models that would predict default or predict income, for example. And many of our viewers, probably very very good data scientists, they would probably be aware that there's now a new package out there in the market that is claiming to automate data science projects. So, of course, the first thought that comes into my mind, will I be replaced? So imagine a data scientist would be thinking that because um, it has always been very unique for data scientists to be able to carry out data science projects, from cleaning to designing and to the choosing of the model. But imagine a package that will be able to do everything there, right? So first, the first thought that came to my mind was, oh, how accurate is this? Or actually kind of willing to look at how I can put it down, because of course you don't want your credibility diminished. But as I review the package, I realized that, well, it's not really automating the entire process, but rather it's kind of giving intelligent suggestions on how you will go about it. At the end of the day, you will be able to, it will run many iterations, many permutations of possible steps, because there are many, and it will give a suggestion on what might be the best one, or the optimal one. Now, after that, then it seems that the right word here is that the automation portion happens when it tries to just goes or helps us, or goes away with the trivial tasks, those tasks that can really be that doesn't really require a lot of our creative juices, a lot of our intuitive processes. And looking into that point, I realized that maybe using the word automation might actually be, well, producing or inducing fear to a lot of people. So I've always had the belief. So, well, another example, just to link there. I've always had the belief that AI will always exist with HI, or human intelligence. Now, to bring into another area of my expertise is finance. You know that right now they're creating kind of these robo advisors. But the robo advisors, they might be able to select your perfect portfolio, giving away, of course, portfolio managers. But when we are looking into it, to the process of the portfolio management, at the end of the day, they can execute, but then it's really the trivial tasks. At the end of the day, the design of, for example, if you're the portfolio manager for an insurance company, you have a different financial needs than if you are, let's say, a bank, or let's say a property developer. So in that case, the human intelligence always, and in almost all cases that I've encountered, of course, I might be wrong, always is the superior type of intelligence guiding the AI. Now, a lot of what we can probably say in that, in there, possible, it's also not correct for a data scientist to dismiss that there's also some automation that's happening. Of course, there are some automation that's happening, but we should also put in mind that as AI was able to displace some of the, let's say, a number of jobs, some research actually showed that the development of AI actually produced more jobs than what it displaced. It's more of course, a change in the paradigm of what those jobs are. But in terms of eliminating human need, it's not necessarily true. It eliminated some tasks, not humans.
That's right. Thanks, Francis, for highlighting very, very important point about when you talk about the AI embedded automation, and also, IPA process, robotic process automation, IPA. When you talk about it, often triggers a lot of, negative sentiment, and sometimes fears, because technology is not for technology, and the technology is for human beings. And we have to have really empathetical point of view, because it's not what you say sometimes, is how you say it. You can deliver same content, but you can deliver in a way that you can really explain the consequences, not the output, and not to just really bluntly sharing. Because I often the faces in the situation that I work with a lot of assessors in industry, insurance industry, and of course the claims assessors, they've got 10s and 20 years of the vast knowledge and experience, and the data scientist comes and say, oh, by the way, it will be automated. And what does it mean to them, right? Because it's not respectful, right? Because and actually it's not correct. It's not really entirely correct statement either, because as you mentioned, Francis, there's so much you can automate it. It's impossible to automate the entire process, so that you don't need a human touch. Always the process will be human in the loop. So to make the most optimal outcome, you need to look at human and machine collaboration, because you are giving the intelligent assistant, which is efficiently automated tool to the assessors or to the person, so that the person can use their knowledge and experience and make most appropriate decision. And as you mentioned, the robot advisor case, the mishap actually that happened in Australia market. So we are very clear about what happened, and that's typical example. If the algorithm and data set really produces and causes unexpected the consequences, then the algorithm, it can be really amplified, and it can really create negative outcomes. And once the outcome is produced, you can't turn it back. So this financial case is much better than if it's it's dealing with the health cases or even military cases. Imagine. So that really brings back to the responsible and ethical AI that we can talk about for another day. But for this one, for today in automation and task, and you've touched on all these relevant points about how AI is actually the opening new opportunity for the people to really create new jobs, but at the same time assisting and helping to do repetitive and very mundane, very simple tasks, so that we can really utilize human intelligence better way. So in this COVID time, we can see that a lot of people are working in hybrid environment, and so working from home and working from office, and as you mentioned, that flexible work arrangement actually increases productivity. So in your opinion, you can also see that how human and machine collaboration is hybrid engagement as well, and you can see that it can create more opportunity, and it can actually empower our workforce to create more positive and efficient outcomes in the future, right? So can you maybe share some details about your personal experience, how that setting is applicable to you?
Okay, so well, in my case, for example, how, for example, this work from home scenario has greatly increased my productivity. Well, it can go to as simple as I'm not driving, and in Manila, traffic is very, very not but one of the worst, right? So I think we were voted as the worst traffic in the world. So if you let go of that process, imagine the amount of time that you can use for productivity. So that is one, and very important for innovative work, right? The other types of cases, like for example, we've seen in the real estate case, we've seen the use of cloud, where in the cloud you kind of have one single source of truth. So, for example, utilizing drives, it can be as simple as that. Like before, because people can go meet with each other, the normal work of that process of at least that company is that, okay, we have this copy of PowerPoint file, and then each of us edits it, and then we merge on a local copy. But because that's not possible and you're not allowed to meet, then we have this drive, and then everybody just edits on the same copy. As simple as that actually eliminates a lot of the work. So yeah, in my case, at least on the personal case, those are the experiences that I've had where the adoption of a new mindset of how technology is actually greatly helping the workload is, well, significantly relevant. So in that case, so,
That's right. That's right. I think that's a really great point, Francis. Thanks for sharing that. I think that's one simple use case, but I can see that, a lot of audience, really might resonate. They've shared the same experience because it seems like a simplified sharing that we thought it was impossible previously, but now digital transformation enabled us to actually work anywhere, anytime, flexible way that suits your need. That brings back nicely about, yes, AI opens the door about, how, it can assist, hybrid work arrangement and hybrid collaboration. And also it really highlights about how about, the fair and inclusive workforce, which means the people with handicapped and disabled, less, capable, people that we normally consider, it's hard to travel, to workforce. It might give another opportunity. You can work anywhere because you have tools and you have all the equipment. Then it opens the door about that special the work arrangement is possible. And I'd like to ask you to share your view about how that might play from your perspectives.
yeah. This is actually really nice. We've recently just had, I think that was June or May, where we had a Women's Month, right? And there's kind of like a speaker who mentioned the importance of inclusive workforce, diversity in the workforce. And let me get to it quickly in a while, but let me just preface this with this fact. There are a lot of things that AI are incredible, but I guess one of the greatest achievement that AI was able to make or accelerate with employment and workforce is actually the advancement of inclusivity or inclusion, or even the fairness in work. Now, why do I say that? We mentioned earlier that AI is able to automate or let go of the automated, or kind of like the trivial tasks, right? The tasks that doesn't require creativity, right? Now we found out that actually in that study that the speaker highlighted, we found out that well, diversity is not important if you are doing works that are standardized or doesn't really have any other outcome, any other output. So let's say, for example, you're working in a factory. You don't care about diversity because the output, regardless of who you hire, should necessarily be the same, right? However, in works that are innovative, right, that requires substantial amount of creativity or that are centered towards innovation, diversity plays a key role into producing a wildly different and unique outcome. So that means hiring more women, hiring different educational background, or hiring not even college graduates, but even just high school graduates who can code, who can understand the problem. And AI was the one thing or one force that was able to make that happen very quickly, because now the menial task can be done by the computer, and now the point of view for your hiring will just be the talent or the unique point of view. And in that case, AI has achieved a very, very great way. And nobody's talking about it, but thank you for raising that, because now we know that we have to thank AI for bringing into attention the importance of highlighting human creativity more than ever like, has ever existed before, right? Because now the task that requires no imagination can be left to the computer, because that's what they're good at. They're not good at imagination. And with that, people with disability, people with less educational background have a fighting chance. Right?
That's right. That's right. Thank you. Thanks for sharing the beautiful point about, actually, it really requires, inclusive and diversity when you talk about, if you are really working on creative task, because it really brings out the best from individuals, and multidisciplinary background really matters because it really brings out different ideas. And that makes sense because when we are creating and, product and services, it's serving and we are selling and offering to the people, is very diverse and inclusive background. We can't just sell one cohort of demographic. That's impossible. So that also brings back to the responsible and ethical and transparent AI component, because I'm actually very glad I'm working in AI industry, and I'm so glad because it's good to see that actually AI really resurfaces the importance of diversity and inclusive in terms of the ethical component in the data and for the people. So ethics by design, people say that it's a must. It's not like optional anymore, because you need to bring in all different thoughts from the beginning when you are working on the project. Creating the data, building the model, implementing it, and all these aspects are so important. And another point I'd like to quickly discuss with you is about, so yes, it is happening. AI is really automating some very simple repetitive task, and AI can assist people to do better job. And at the same time, it will create a lot of new professionals and new jobs, right? So what does that mean to the workforce and individual that, actually planning our career path in the future? Because that means, because you graduate university, you've got a bachelor's degree or master's degree or PhD, and you want to just stop, continue learning, that doesn't apply anymore, right? Because it's very evolving technology. So Francis, I'd like to you to discuss and share your view about your thoughts about the future workforce and continuous learning and what that means to you and your team.
Okay. Well, thank you for raising that. Actually, we've recently just discussed the importance of data literacy. Some of my fearless predictions in the future are the following. Number one, that well, the role of data will no longer be like treated as a magic. Right now, we see it like, okay, do you have a chief analytics officer, or chief data officer? Then that's an advantage. But in the future, I predict that it's going to be, well, you know how they say that the firm have three major activity like well, operating, financing, and investing will now have like one part of that will be the like the data aspect. It will now be kind of normal. Okay, and with that, of course, the data professionals or the data careers that we're seeing right now will become quite normal. So what I can see is while we're in this transition, we're seeing a lot of schools revise their programs into what can be what the components that will be more relevant into this type of paradigm. But what this means in with me and my team, for example, and for all of us who's listening here, is that there's also quite we are in kind of like the sweet spot where everything is kind of well new or well not necessarily new, but people are just gaining awareness to how
Yes.
they improve outcomes. So that means that while you're in this profession, for those who are already in the data profession and AI, for example, it's actually an invitation to not rest, but actually learn more and be able to guide those that are not yet into the field. And for those who are planning to transition into the field, well, what I can tell you is that data science as a profession or the data science as a field is actually quite broad. And even when we were discussing earlier, ethics, innovation, some of those doesn't necessarily require the heavy technical skills, right? It's really just an understanding. Start with the understanding of what data can do and the outcomes. And there is a career there. So at the end of the day, people won't be averse or rather won't dislike the term data science anymore if they understood that how it will really helps the business where they are. Even they don't trust, even if they don't transfer, even with their current line of work. So,
That's right. That's right. Thank you so much, Francis. That's really valid point. I really loved your point about, it's not going to be data science. It might be called something else, but you'll be working in these different new eras and new tools and new data environment, but you'll be doing similar things. And as long as your heart is, your mindset is curious, because I often think I'm very lucky to work in this AI industry where I can use AI and I can think about how to help people, community. And I feel privileged to do so because it is really amazing profession and amazing industry because AI can really help automate a lot of works, but at the same time AI can really help people with a disability and dyslexia, autism, all these important mental health, well-being, everything, and senior citizens, and becoming creating the comfort chatbot, all these areas where we can really apply AI and really try to really help more people and remove more pain points. I think that's where the future lies. And as long as your heart is passionate and curious, and you will enjoy continuous learning about it. And Francis, I think I really enjoyed your view and your perspectives and your talk, and I'm sure that audience enjoyed very much as I did as well. Thank you so much for your time and sharing your view today, Francis. Maybe final note.
well, thank you, Angela. I actually enjoyed it as well. But I've never actually met a person who's more into the AI ethics, and I'm very thankful because it gave us a chance to actually explore it. For those actually, so as a final note, we have to well, we've mentioned how important the creative portion or the human intelligences into the pursuit of AI. Well, we also would like to invite people to ask more questions about what's possible, because as a final note, and for those executives who are watching here, I cannot tell you how much an executive without a data background has helped me by asking the right question. So because they are not in the data science where they are exploring on a pure imagination, not on the practical one. And it guided a lot of my study because, oh, he makes a valid point. Maybe if I structure my process this way, we can achieve a better point. So really just ask, communicate. And there's a lot of roles that are not technical for data and for the AI ethics, and we should all be looking out for that.
That's really fantastic note to wrap it up. Thank you so much, Francis. Looking forward to have another conversation with you in the near future. And thanks to everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you so much, Angela and Francis. What a great conversation that was. Totally hooked to the screen and stage while listening to both of you. So thank you for that brilliant conversation.